In modern society, there's an increased interest in spiritual practices, with many seeking ways to purify karma, often turning to rituals and ceremonies. This raises the question, how effective are these methods, and are there more potent approaches? Rituals, mantras, and ceremonies can have an indirect impact on a person. For those who resonate with them, these actions can become a kind of key to inner change. But why does it work this way? By performing a ritualistic action or immersing oneself in chanting mantras, a person, with the right approach, begins to work with their mind, re-examines their motives, issues, and changes their inner state. Thus, a new imprint is formed in the mind, the result of conscious willpower, that is, karma. And in the future, when circumstances align in a certain way, the fruits of this positive karma may manifest. It's no coincidence that Buddha said, through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. Through the purification of the mind, beings are purified. In other words, it's not the action itself that causes the changes, but its influence on the person's mind, state, and motivation. It's important to note that in the modern world, more and more people are recognizing this fact. But what constitutes a genuine, effective way to purify karma? This will be revealed further on. It's important to remember that a simple correlation of events doesn't always indicate a causal relationship. For example, a spike in sales of sunglasses and ice cream simultaneously doesn't mean that one product drives demand for the other. Rather, both of these phenomena are driven by a common factor: sunny weather and the time of year. Similarly, in the case of various rituals aimed at purifying karma, improvements in a person's life occur not so much because of the ritual itself, but thanks to conscious work on their inner world, thoughts, motivation, and emotional state. Meaningless repetition of mantras or mechanical rotation of a prayer wheel without understanding their deeper meaning and purpose will not bring the desired result. This is especially true in situations where a person has no idea about the content of the mantra, the inscriptions on the wheel, and their meaning. Such activity may be a pleasant pastime, but it's much more effective to devote oneself to the practice of Dharma, the path of spiritual development and self-improvement. Even simply being near a spiritually developed person can have a beneficial effect, but only if the person is receptive to their energy and open to change. Ultimately, it's the inner work on oneself that holds the key to positive change. It's useless to surround a person with outstanding individuals and provide them with ritualistic attributes if they themselves don't strive to work on themselves. The absence of desire, abilities, and skills in managing one's mind, habits, and emotional state negates any external influences. Such measures may bring only minor benefit, although for some, such an approach may be acceptable. Conscious performance of rituals and mantras, underpinned by deep understanding, has the ability to transform a person, purify their mind, and elevate their spirit, which ultimately leads to the purification of karma. However, there is a more effective way to purify karma. Buddha emphasized that true purification lies in discipline and nobility, not in blind adherence to rituals accepted by Brahmins. He spoke of abstaining from violence, theft, and unworthy sexual behavior. It's important to avoid lies, gossip, and harsh words, replacing them with speech that is soft, pleasant, and benevolent, capable of touching hearts and eliciting sympathy. It's necessary to abandon idle chatter and speak only what is appropriate, truthful, and useful. A person striving to purify karma should not envy the possessions of others, and their thoughts should be devoid of malice. They should wish all beings happiness, freedom from enmity, oppression, and anxiety. A key element is adherence to correct views and perspectives, which is the foundation for spiritual progress. Every action, whether good or bad, entails certain consequences. There are 10 paths leading to positive karma, and following them brings benefit. A person who has embarked on these paths of virtue begins their day with purity of thought and intention. True purification of karma lies in the transformation of personality, in the gradual but steady change of ingrained habits and lifestyle. The human being is a continuous flow of psychophysical states, subject to constant change. By making conscious adjustments to this flow, directing it in a positive direction with the power of will, The individual influences their karmic structure, determining the future fruits of their actions. Suppose in the past a person committed an ignoble act. However, by changing for the better, they can prevent the sprouting of the seeds of negative karma, or at least significantly mitigate their impact. Consider a typical example. An individual abuses alcohol, commits petty theft at work, and is rude to colleagues. Sooner or later, negative karma will make itself known. They might get caught red-handed. Alcohol addiction will push them towards further crimes, and colleagues will testify against them. As a result, they will end up in prison, where they will continue to degrade, experiencing physical, emotional, and mental suffering. However, there is another possibility. The person transforms, stopping the seemingly inevitable consequences of their actions. They give up their harmful habit, become more open and friendly in communication, eradicate rudeness in their behavior, and, as a result, negative events pass them by. Even if adverse consequences did occur, their past mistakes, if discovered, would have far less serious repercussions. This is, of course, just a simplified example. The karmic web is a complex system stretching through time, and our perception is limited to only a fragment of it. Nevertheless, even a partial understanding is sufficient. If someone claims to be able to cleanse another's karma, one should remember the words of the Buddha. By oneself is evil done, by oneself is one defiled, by oneself is evil left undone, by oneself is one purified. Purity and impurity depend on oneself. No one can purify another. Undoubtedly, the influence of people on each other is enormous, and we are all interconnected. But no one can forcibly bring another to spiritual purification. Improving one's own karma may be more accessible than it seems at first glance. It is enough to start with small steps and gradually move forward. And to continue on this path, one only needs to see the next step.